I won't allow my daughter to marry someone with a low education and poor background.
Wilson decided to spend the rest of his life with Hannah. But when he met her father for the first time, he was unexpectedly shamed. After he mentioned he was a construction worker, suddenly the father started yelling.
How could you be so judgmental? Dad? He's an amazing guy.
Hannah tried to defend Wilson, but her father dismissed her. You keep your mouth shut. And then he turned to Wilson, his face beet red. Ever show your face again. Get out. Understood.
Understood.
Wilson, trembling with anger, left the place. A few days later, Hannah's father regretted his behavior when he came across Wilson again. I'm Wilson Mackenzie, a civil construction worker. My dad, Donnie, ran a construction company passed down from my grandfather. I respect him a lot, but once he sets his mind on something, he never backs down. He's highly respected by others too.
Treat everyone with respect.
This is a value he has instilled in me from a young age. He always upholds it, earning deep trust from those around him. Even as the CEO, he used to go to the work site, give instructions, and work the hardest. It was something I admired. But when I was in 8th grade, he was rushed to the emergency room after an accident on a site. He suffered spinal cord damage, making him unable to live without a wheelchair. Unable to work as before, my parents worried about the future. I didn't want the company he had worked so hard for to go out of business. I wanted to help, but I had no means to do so. It was frustrating. Then,
Even without Donnie, we can handle things, so don't worry.
the employees worked even harder. Our business partners too gave us work on a priority basis. Everyone made an effort to keep the company from collapsing. Despite being busier and exhausted, the workers worried about my dad and came to check on him after work. Thanks to them, the company not only survived but grew larger than before. On weekends, I visited the site and observed the work. The workers were always friendly with me and asked, "How's your dad?" I didn't know the ins and outs, but I could see that those people were supporting my dad.
Why are you working so hard?
I once blurted out without thinking. I soon regretted that I asked.
I'm sorry.
One of them volunteered to answer me.
We're just returning the favor your dad did for us.
Hearing that, I realized what my dad had done was outstanding. That even as a kid, I genuinely wanted to become someone like him. After that, I went to a specialized civil engineering school. My ultimate goal was to work as a construction worker in my dad's company from the start. So, in middle school, I considered going to university to acquire knowledge comparable to my dad's. However, after he became wheelchair-bound, I decided to go to a specialized high school to be able to start working sooner. The more I polished my civil engineering skills, the more I realized his greatness. The more I learned, the more distant he seemed. If I was going to proudly call myself his successor, I needed to hone my skills harder. There was pressure, but I wasn't stressed. On the contrary, I found my studies fulfilling. I immersed myself in learning. Before I knew it, I became the top in my class. After graduating, I joined my dad's company with high expectations. My dad treated me as an employee, not showing favoritism. Was eager to gain recognition from my colleagues. I worked diligently, always keeping my dad's words in mind. While working, someone on the site said, "You're working too hard. Take a break before you wear out." So, I decided to take a day off. Since it was a rare occasion, I decided to visit exhibition about world-famous bridges, something I'd been interested in. Who knew my simple plan was going to change my life drastically? The chance encounter that led me to my current girlfriend. I heard there were some pretty detailed design documents on display, so I thought it'd be educational. When I entered, the first thing that caught my eye was a photo of the framework of a bridge. I had never been to the actual site, but it was a beautiful bridge, so seeing the framework got me excited. Next to it were design documents for the framework on display. To get a closer look, I leaned in. My head bumped into someone else's. Sorry, I didn't realize there was someone else here. The elegant yet cute voice echoed before I could apologize. I lifted my head and was taken aback by her presence. She was stunning. I was so captivated that I stumbled over my words. She chuckled and said, "Interested in the blueprints?" "I love this bridge too. Are you an architect or something?" "I am a Kicho construction worker, and Ume since it's an exhibition of, famous bridges. So I came to check it out. I thought I might learn something useful, What about you? What do you do?" I tripped over my words, and it felt like I wasn't really myself when I spoke. Having lived a life focused on work until now, I've had very little interaction with girls. I didn't know how to handle it.
It's not related to my job, but I came as part of my university research.
Oh, really?
I wanted to keep the conversation going, and I think it was probably the most I have ever used my brain.
No, I haven't.
So, Akim and mustered up the courage and asked, "Would you like to check it out together?" If you want. I didn't even consider the possibility of her saying no.
I was actually hoping to explore it with someone. It'd be more interesting to hear opinions from someone in the field.
And she agreed. What I learned that day was that she was incredibly studious. When I talked about the construction process, she listened very seriously. We were both interested in bridges and dams, so we hit it off really well. At the end of the day, we exchanged our numbers, and from then on, we met up a few times at cafes. When I asked her what sparked her interest in civil engineering, she told me it was her father's job in the field. It was the same for me. I empathized with her motivations, and before I knew it, I had developed feelings for her. Looking back, it might have been love at first sight.
Hey Hannah, will you be my girlfriend?
One day, I mustered up the courage to ask her. She responded with a smile saying, "Sure, let's give it a try." And so we started dating. Prior to being a university student and a company employee, we couldn't meet frequently, but whenever we found time, we talked about our favorite architectural structures. There was a time when she expressed interest in visiting an actual construction site, so I took her to one of my assigned work sites. By then, my colleagues had accepted me, so they teased me quite a bit, saying I brought my future wife. She just laughed it off. It was evident that they, while teasing me, were genuinely happy for me. I felt really grateful for that. But time passed, and it's been 2 years since we got together. I feel it's about time, so I've made up my mind to propose to her. She simply answers yes. Seeing her blush, I vow to make her absolutely happy. We've decided to inform my parents first, as her family lives a bit far away.
For getting married.
Since they've known about her already, I simply give them the news. My dad, with moistened eyes, joyfully says, "Make sure to take good care of her."
Make sure to take good care of her.
After that, we plan on going to meet her family. Since she lives apart from them, she gives them a heads up that we'll be visiting on the weekend. After she hangs up the phone, she turns to me and says,
My dad's a bit strict, but if you talk to him, he'll understand.
her father currently works as a director at a major general contractor. Since my dad is also a strict person, I should have acquired proper manners. On the day of the introduction, I nervously head to her house in my best suit. As I worry about my appearance and feel nervous about meeting her parents, we arrive at their house.
Wishia!
Hannah joyfully announces as she opens the front door.
Come in.
She ushers me inside. Hi there. I'm Wilson. I greet her mother first.
Welcome. I'm Betty. It was a long drive, wasn't it? So nice to have you here.
She greets me with a bright smile. She seems more laid back than Hannah. As we enter the living room, her father, John, is reading a newspaper.
Good afternoon.
I make eye contact with Hannah, take a deep breath, and then extend my arm to him as I introduce myself.
I'm Wilson Mackenzie. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. Thank you for making time for us today.
Then, I sit down on a sofa across from the parents and continue.
I've asked Hannah to marry me. I promise to make her happy for the rest of our lives.
After I finish speaking, there's a brief silence. Betty suddenly chuckles and turns to John.
He seems sincere and perfect for Hannah.
He glances at Hannah and Betty a few times as he sighs, and then finally says,
Take good care of her, son.
Although it's somewhat awkward, he tries to smile. I feel all the heaviness on my shoulders disappear at once.
Of course. I will do my best.
I look straight into his eyes. Surprisingly, he's teared up.
So, Hannah, I can't believe you're already the age to get married. I'm happy but a bit melancholic.
Oh, geez, honey.
Come on. Dad, stop crying.
Betty comforts him, patting his back, and Hannah joins in.
If you guys want, stay for dinner.
Betty asks as she stands up to leave.
I would love to. Thank you.
I sat down and gladly accepted her offer. Hannah goes to help Betty, leaving John and me alone. Feeling a bit awkward, I look around the room and he initiates the conversation.
So what do you do for work? Wilson?
When he looks straight at me, it's quite intimidating. Out of my job? I answer clearly.
I'm a civil construction worker.
Damn. He suddenly stands up with a loud noise. His face is red and quickly becoming stern.
I won't allow this marriage. My daughter can't be with an uneducated, poor guy, he shouts.
Upon hearing this, Hannah comes rushing into the room.
Dad, seriously? Stop it.
I don't really care about the occupation, but not a construction worker. It's like a gathering place for drifters and criminals.
He snubs my field of work altogether.
That's a very narrow perspective. He's neither.
Hannah, you don't know about civil construction work. That's why you say that. Anyone, regardless of their education or background, can do this job. You can never tell their true character.
He's different. I know he's put a huge effort into learning and is genuinely committed to his work.
While I'm happy that she thought of me that way, it's frustrating to have my job belittled by her father.
Do you know the annual income of a civil construction worker? At that amount, you won't be able to make her happy.
He had no intention of hearing her pleas.
Honey, you're going too far.
Hetty tries to calm him down, but his face turns even redder.
Shut up, you all. I won't allow this marriage. Ever show your face in front of me again.
He shouts angrily. I think about my hardworking dad and my colleagues. The fact that they're looked down upon infuriates me.
Understood. I'll leave now.
If I stay here, I might get into a heated argument with him. To keep my dignity, I decide to excuse myself quickly. Hannah chases after me. I continue walking towards my car, unable to shake off my frustration.
Hey, Wilson! Wait up!
I'm startled by the voice and turn around to see her, out of breath.
Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for things to turn out like this.
Calming down and realizing I forgot about her in my anger. I apologize to her.
I'm sorry too. I never expected things to escalate like this. You've been working so hard and you don't deserve this.
It's not your fault. I just couldn't tolerate your father belittling my job.
Acting on my earlier action, driven by emotion. I regret my behavior.
You did nothing wrong. The problem is with my dad. You don't need to apologize.
She looks straight into my eyes.
Can we go to your parents? I want to tell them what happened and apologize. Okay.
She requests with a determined expression.
Sure, let's go. Hey, I'm back.
Oh, Wilson. That was quick.
He glances at me with the TV remote in his hand.
I'm here too.
Oh, Hannah. But you guys supposed to visit your parents? I hope Wilson didn't make a fool of himself.
He jokes around, but both of us tense up. Hannah steps forward.
About that.
She starts explaining what happened.
So, I need to apologize for my father's disrespectful comments about you and Wilson.
She looks down in shame.
I regret being disrespectful to her father, though.
I convey my disappointment in myself. He nods understandingly.
Hannah, it's not your fault. You don't need to apologize. But I appreciate you telling me.
He smiles at her.
And Wilson, letting your emotions take over is a bad habit. Be careful. Well, I can't just stay silent when you've been so disrespected, though.
As soon as he says that, he starts making a call somewhere. It's been a few days since the incident. It tells me to change into a suit without a reason. He's also wearing one, which is unusual.
Let's go.
He tells me to drive. I help him into the car and start driving as he navigates. When we arrive at the destination, I'm totally taken aback.
Holy cow.
I can't help but exclaim my surprise. We're at the major construction company where John's employed. Ed casually gives his name at the reception, and we're guided to the top floor conference room. But to my surprise, all the executives are gathered there, and John is in the corner. I'm dumbfounded and freeze at the spot, but seeing Dad confidently walk in, I quickly follow him. Then the CEO-like figure among them apologizes at once.
We deeply regret the rudeness shown by John here.
Thank you for taking the time to meet with us today. May I introduce Wilson, my son, who is expected to succeed me.
He's been told by John never to show his face again, so I want to discuss the continuation of our business relationship. My dad wastes no time and expresses his concern, and John immediately stands up looking pale.
I didn't mean to cause trouble to this company. I sincerely apologize.
I haven't mentioned it, but my dad, being well respected, is the head of the civil engineering union, and his influence is quite significant. Also, John's company is responsible for managing local civil engineering contractors, so losing our business would significantly impact their construction projects.
If I were to be treated in such a disrespectful manner at work, it would be a disservice to the employees who have been dedicated to me. We can't do business with someone who belittles people based on their occupation.
My dad clearly makes his point. John, looking distressed, continues to apologize.
I'm truly sorry. I let my emotions take over, especially considering it's about my daughter. I deeply regret my actions. I'm ready to face the consequences. Please, I beg you to continue your relationship with this company.
He seems to have realized the scale of his mistake and is now desperately trying to save face for the company.
I'm very sorry for my unpleasant behavior.
He keeps apologizing, and Dad observes him for a while.
I see. Well, if you insist, then I'd like to continue our business relationship.
Upon hearing that, John lets out a deep sigh of relief and expresses his gratitude. Everyone else follows suit. Thank you, Donnie. After that, my dad discusses recent work and future plans with the CEO for a while before leaving the room. Later, my dad informs me that John has faced consequences at work. However, the punishment is a minor pay cut since the business relationship is saved after all. He praises John's attitude, saying taking responsibility for his actions and trying not to cause trouble for the company was admirable. I've decided to visit John and Betty with Hannah again. Pie again. I follow Hannah into his house. John's reading the newspaper in the living room. Our trail, I greet him and attempt to start a conversation.
It seems like I got carried away, thinking I was all important just because I gave out jobs to subcontractors. But then I realized that without the workers on the ground, the job wouldn't get done. I'm really sorry about the other day. Seeing him truly remorseful, I forgive him for disrespecting our work.
While our roles as civil engineering workers aren't inherently superior, it's the collaboration between on-site workers and the management of John's company that ensures everything moves smoothly. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. I'm glad he understands it now, and I myself have realized that the support of a company like his allows me to do my job without a hitch. Please, it's all good now. I hope we'll continue to keep our good relationship from now on. I assure him that there's no resentment on my side. With smooth conversations afterward, An gives us his blessing on our planned marriage. When I return home, I report the good news to my dad. Well, Dad, they gave us their blessing.
Oh, that's good to hear. Congratulations. Make Hannah the happiest wife, okay?
He gives me a wink. I also let everyone at work know about my upcoming marriage. Congratulations! Wish you all happiness. I knew she was your future wife. Let's celebrate. Let's go for drinks. They all gave Hannah and me their blessings. Some even shed tears, and they feel fortunate to have such caring people around me. This incident has made me realize how amazing my dad is. Not just about his title, but as a person.
Treat everyone with respect.
I strongly feel the meaning of it now. As I look at my colleagues happily celebrating and Hannah smiling beside me, I vow to myself, I'll have a long way to go to match my dad's greatness, but I'll follow in his footsteps and do a commendable job. I've been working for the publishing company for 10 years. So I became a section leader in the sports magazine department and married through an office romance 2 years ago. Something happened just as I thought everything was going swimmingly. When I arrived at work one morning, Henry, the section chief, approached me with a grin. I didn't get along well with him. He was the type of person who thrived on finding flaws in others. At every turn, he smelled out the smallest error made by others and reported it to the department manager. I couldn't tell if he came to work every day or only to look for other people's mistakes because he never did his normal work. I didn't know why such a person was working as a chief. Earlier that day, too,
Hader Tadori, the manager, told you to come to conference room 1.
With that, he was smiling. Okay. I answered and hurried straight to conference room 1. That's when I knocked on the conference room door.
Come in.
I heard the manager's boss. X was Sepple 18 when I opened the door. The manager of the sports department and the head of the human resources department sat down and looked at me. First, our department manager asked me a question.
Theodore, do you know anyone at Company B?
I had no idea.
No, I don't.
Then an unbelievable story came out of the manager's mouth.
As Company B's A's Scoop. The exclusive scoop on Jack's transfer to the famous team was announced.
What?
I learned of Jack's transfer to another prominent team after spending several days at a bar he frequented. Why was that announced as a scoop by Company B?
According to Henry, there is a guy from your college who is your junior and now works at Company B, correct?
I assumed he was thinking I had disclosed information to someone from Company B who went to the same college as me.
With all due respect, sir, I have no idea what you're talking about. I didn't even know the Company B employee you mentioned. There is no way I would simply hand over a scoop that I spent months obtaining to another company.
I tried to explain, but the manager's face remained grim.
Unfortunately, we can't believe 100 of what you say as long as we have Henry's testimony. I'm ordering you to work at the regional office until things settle down with this information leak matter.
I couldn't believe my ears. Just a regional office. There was no such thing as a professional baseball team. And they only had one professional baseball game a year. There was a high school baseball team that regularly played in the national championship, so there was a chance that I could write an article about it. But it was really a demotion, and so I was assigned to work at the regional office from the beginning of the week. Which when I came back from the conference room, as I expected, Henry spoke to me. Henry, you're going to be the regional office's head of the sports department. Good for you. I glared at Henry. Why did you invent such a story? Henry, it's not bullshit.
Andrew from Company B is your junior at university, right? I'm not wrong, am I?
I'm not familiar with any Andrew from Company B. I'm not sure if we attended the same university, but I've never met him.
Don't make things up.
Henry looked at me and grinned.
I just told the truth.
I knew then that I was being set up. He purposefully informed the management that I and Chris from Company B attended the same college. And he made it sound like there was some kind of connection between us. And he must have framed me for leaking the information. I couldn't believe it. But there was no point in getting mad. The reality is that I was transferred. I went home and told my wife Amelia about it. Then,
No way. A regional office? That's too sudden.
yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe in a few years, I'll be able to return to the headquarters. But as long as Henry is in the sports department, it might be hard to get back. That's for a while. For Amelia was thinking silently. Then she made an unbelievable statement.
Let's break up.
So, what? What do you mean you're breaking up with me? Then Amelia said with a cold expression I had never seen before.
Because I definitely don't want to live in the countryside. I can't leave LA.
So you want me to go there alone? When I asked her, she gave me an even more incredible answer.
Go alone. No. I'm talking about divorce. After a demotion with no guarantee of returning to the main office means you're not going to get promoted. There's no point in staying with someone who has such a bleak future.
My mind went blank. I pondered whether it was so simple for her to consider divorce simply because I had strayed from my career track.
I married you because you were a section leader in your 20s, and I saw us having a bright and secure future ahead of us. I can't believe that you're being demoted to a countryside branch office.
I understood when she said that. Amelia never loved me. She chose to marry me since I had become a section leader at a major publishing company in my 20s and was well on my way in my career. She wed my title. Hearing Amelia's cold words, my feelings for her cooled off. I didn't even feel like trying to dissuade her or persuade her somehow. We became strangers again with a piece of paper. Then I packed my stuff and moved out within a week. On the day I moved my things into my room, I went to the grocery in the evening, a 10-minute walk away, to get some food. I went to the prepared food section and bought some corn soup, hamburger steak, and bread for tomorrow's breakfast. As I left the supermarket, it began to rain. The rain quickly intensified. It was like a squall. By the time I got to the apartment I had just moved into, my hair and shoulders were quite wet. As I hurried to get inside, I saw someone in the alley next to the apartment. Someone appeared to be crouching. As I approached, I saw a woman sitting there, soaking wet from the rain. I thought that she wasn't feeling well. I hurriedly called out to her. Are you all right? Are you feeling okay? Then the woman in front of me slowly looked up. Her face was extremely pale and lifeless. I had a bad feeling. I considered calling an ambulance, but I decided to take care of her first. Well, I live on the 3rd floor of this apartment building.
Well, I live on the 3rd floor of this apartment building. There is a laundromat on the 1st floor. Why don't you dry your wet clothes? You'll catch a cold if you stay like that.
I told her that
I'm not a suspicious person. Here's my business card.
She looked at the card, then at me and nodded her head, a blank expression on her face. Baturi STL Prasmas. I handed her a bath towel and a top and bottom jersey at the entrance and led her to the bathroom.
It's your time to change. You can use the shower if you like.
With that, I closed the door of the bathroom. After a while, she came out. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. She bowed.
Oh, it's okay. Are you feeling all right?
Yes, I'm sorry for the trouble. It's just anemia,
She replied. I had a cup of instant coffee with her and introduced myself. I introduced myself and said that I had just moved here this morning and that I would be starting work for a publishing company the next day. She told me about herself too. I was astonished to learn that we were co-workers at the same company.
My name is Sophia Anderson. I guess that means I will be working under you starting tomorrow. I'm in charge of accounting.
Wow, really? What a coincidence that we work in the same place. I'm looking forward to working with you. I just moved here, so there's a lot I don't know about.
After that, Sophia told me about the company and we talked about other things. I guess I was relieved because she and I worked at the same company and seemed to have gotten to know each other rather well. So I decided to ask her something that had been bothering me for a long time.
You don't have to answer if you don't want to, but why were you in that alley?
Well, actually, someone is stalking me.
What? A name a stalker?
Sophia told me that she had been the victim of a stalker for the past several months. She claimed she was also being followed from in front of the station that day. She had previously approached the police, but was advised that they could not intervene unless there was actual injury, such as an attack. Sophia was almost seized by the arm that day, just a few dozen meters from her residence. She said that she threw an umbrella at the stalker and ran into the alley.
That must have been terrifying.
I suggested Sophia, whose face clouded as she remembered the incident.
If you'd like to, why don't we leave the office together starting tomorrow? I'll walk you home after we leave the onset. Your home is near here, right?
Her face lights up all at once.
Oh, really? It would be very helpful if you would do that. Thank you very much.
Sophia happily thanked me repeatedly. I arrived at the branch office early in the morning the next day. On one floor were the sports department, the economics department, the social affairs department, the entertainment department, the general affairs department, and the accounting department. The branch office had an entirely different vibe from the main office, and each person moved with efficiency. They were collaborating with others to avoid working as much overtime as possible. That's how I thought a company should be. I looked into the accounting department and saw Sophia's face. Just a little past the time to leave the office. I called out to Sophia and left the office immediately. Because she was a local, I asked her for a restaurant recommendation on my way home from work that day, and we had dinner together before heading home. From then on, we had dinner and went home together every day.
I'm kind of sorry for asking you to walk me home every day.
Sophia apologetically, as we ate pizza at the restaurant she recommended that served delicious pizzas.
Oh no, it's all right. Achoo, even though I'm new here, I'm delighted to enjoy a nice supper every night.
She smiled when I told her that. We ate dinner together every night, listening to each other's stories. Sophia told me that her husband had cheated on her a few months before, and she had just gotten divorced. Once she became single, she started seeing the same guy all the time at the local supermarket. Eventually, she began to be stalked and harassed. She informed me that she was delighted. She met me and that we were able to walk home together since she sensed a huge danger. Then Sophia and I started going out to eat on our days off. She showed me around the stores in this new place. She took me from the cheapest supermarkets for everyday necessities to the greatest fast food joints for side dishes. And gradually, I began to care about her, who treated me very kindly. One day, after about a week of such days, as usual, I walked Sophia to her apartment after work. I watched her enter the entrance, and as I turned away to leave the place, I heard a woman scream. Could it be the stalker? I thought he had given up and stopped following her. I hurriedly turned around, ran as fast as I could, and ran into the entrance of the apartment building where she lived. Right in front of me, a man wearing a black hoodie was hugging Sophia.
Hey you! What are you doing? Get away from her!
I shouted, grabbing the man's wrist and twisting it up. Ouch! The man fell to his knees. I put both of the man's arms in a tight chokehold and
Call 911 right now.
I yelled at Sophia.
You bastard. If you ever come near her again, you'll regret it.
I said, grabbing the man by the neck. The police arrived a few minutes later, and the man was detained right away because he was carrying a stun pistol and a box cutter knife in his pocket.
Thank you so much.
I let her come into my room. She was crying and trembling for a while.
It's all right now.
I calmed her. I was sure that the stalker would not be released for the time being. But the damage to Sophia seemed to be quite severe.
I'm afraid to be alone in the apartment starting tomorrow.
Trembling, she said so and started to cry. I called the real estate agent of my apartment. He told me that there were 2 rooms available in the apartment.
Sophia, I heard that there is a vacancy in this apartment, although it is a little cheaper than yours. How about moving in here?
I suggested.
Does that mean I can go home to the same place you do every day?
She looked me straight in the eye and asked.
Yes, that's right. If we live in the same apartment, I can watch you go inside your room every day.
When I told her that, Sophia smiled.
Then, can you introduce me to the real estate agent?
She said so. Over the weekend, I helped Sophia move in with my colleagues. The newspaper ran a piece headed Shiro from LA Fights Off Stalker. So it was the topic of conversation during the move. I was so glad that my karate training as a student came in handy here. Since she moved into the same apartment, she has been making my favorite pasta and dishes. I cooked too much. At that, she would come to my room to give them to me. I have a sneaking suspicion that Sophia and I are developing a love relationship. Neither of us has said anything about it yet, but I'm really enjoying the time I spend with her. Before I got here, I was astounded that my wife had left me and that I had been demoted. But now, I feel that it happened at the right moment. According to rumors, my ex-wife had been flirting with Henry and his wife found out. Henry was no longer able to work at the company, and now his ex is suing for a large sum of money, putting him in a lot of problems. I felt good when I heard about it. I was determined to make a fresh start here. And I will not let Sophia go through such a scary experience again. I want to ensure that she is happy,